Welcome to the void, my noids.
Hopefully I can place my mic that I picked up back down despite my broken mic stand. Thankfully I can. Anyway, so you might be wondering, what the hell is this video? Black screen? The name is just selfish video? Well, it is a selfish video. It is a video that I just want to make just because it's easy and I want to do it. And that's it. No, but seriously, Matt noticed that there's been less videos recently. I haven't felt as motivated to, but I didn't want to do nothing, so here we go. What is this video going to be about, though? Well then. Oh yes, it is the spooky music time. Also, let me get rid of the spooky remnants of the spooky void. There we go. Anyway, so yeah, this is FL Studio, and this is a track that I made recently called Solstice, which you might have already heard about. Is the most recent track I put out. And the reason why we're here is because, well, I suppose first of all, let's get it out of the way. Why is this not on the music channel? Again, kind of similar to the last video. This is a video in which I don't really have to talk about the technicalities and, you know, the music terminology or anything like that. You don't really have to know a whole lot about music to be able to watch this video, hopefully. But as well as that, this video is very laid back, not very professionally made. And most of the stuff that I'll put on Technocosm, I want it to come off as of a bit of a higher quality, so, you know, I don't think this would belong on there. So anyway, what is this video? I just want to spend some time talking a little bit about the music that I made recently. I'm really going to try and keep this short. Originally, I was thinking of doing a video on each track I wanted to talk about, but I was realizing even when I just singled out each individual track, if I talked about everything I wanted to talk about, the videos would end up about an hour long, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do some serious cutting down then. I'm going to just make it really quick and really snappy and try not to get bogged down in the details for each track and try and cover multiple tracks like I originally intended to. So, yeah, Solstice is the first one I want to talk about because it's the most recent track I made. Let me just play it for you first. And I'm going to stop it there for now. But yeah, just to give you an idea what it's like. So this is the most recent track I put out, and essentially there was one thing I wanted to focus on really when I made this. That being that I feel like when I've made music in the past, I've always been very ambitious, which I like. You know, it's an intentional choice, but I felt like I was now getting to a point where I could probably make a track that sounded pretty professional if I just lowered my ambitions a little bit. And while I hated doing that, I realized I have to do this sometime, because every single time I make a track, I'm going for something crazy. I'm going for something that is way above really the skill that I have, and usually I end up delivering to an amount I'm satisfied with, but not exactly what I had in mind from the beginning. But I kind of knew from the beginning I wasn't going to get exactly what I wanted, because exactly what I wanted is something kind of too kind of high scale, epic, and out there to really realistically expect myself to be able to do to a good standard. So here I thought, well, actually, I feel like I'm getting good enough now that I should just stop and try and make something not going as quite a high standard, and try and make something like a little bit less crazy, but just try and make it as perfectly as I can. And so that's really what's going on here. I really wanted to focus on just making stuff sound good, because essentially I feel like that was my biggest weakness. It's always been, really. The sound design has always been my strongest point. In fact, originally when I got into making music, I wasn't even interested in music theory at all, like notes or anything like that. I was just interested in electronic sound design. And in fact, I probably might have even been satisfied to do nothing but make sound effects and not actually proper music, because just this stuff is really interesting. So that's always been the point where I've been my strongest. But for a while I also told myself that, oh, I'm bad at the music theory. But to be honest, well, not only am I good at that now, I've got a grasp of that now, but even when I look back at a lot of my older tracks, I think I was bad at getting a start. But honestly, once I got started, I think I was better than I gave myself credit for at the music theory. And my problem has always been the mastering. And I've kind of always known that would be that oh god. I've kind of always known that was my main problem, but I also kind of told myself, I probably overdo it. You know, it's probably not as bad as I think it is, but you know, it is still my weakest. And yeah, it was as bad as I thought it was. At least for the older tracks. So yeah, this is actually part of the reason why now is the time that I want to stop and kind of reflect on the music I've made recently, rather than any other time, is, well, for two reasons. One, that at the moment I actually am not exactly entirely sure what I want to do next, even though I still have ideas. None of them like stick out enough that I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing next, definitely. But as well as that, because I feel like I now have a really good baseline to compare the rest of my tracks to with this track, Solstice, because it doesn't try to do as much as some of those tracks, but I feel like what it tries to do, it gets closer to doing it perfectly than any of my other tracks. So I think it's very good to compare them. So anyway, I did kind of stop it halfway through. You will notice there are going to be some sounds that lag this. This may be my supercomputer now, but at the end of the day, you can tell there's a lot going on the screen. I'm still going to have lag. It's still going to be a problem. But yeah, in fact, how about I just keep this playing while I keep talking, but I massively reduce the volume here so that you can hear me clearly, because otherwise you will not hear me at all. Oh, that's the wrong button I pressed. Oh god, I swear I'm getting there. Okay. Yeah, anyway, let's continue from there. Hopefully I'm still sounding pretty clear to you. So yeah, that was the thought process behind this track, and so I must admit I spent way too long working on this track, because I just kind of hit a slump where once I got this first A section figured out, these first 16 bars of the drop, I hit a point where I was really struggling to make the B section, because I had a very specific thing in mind, and I fell into the trap. I know not to do it, and I still fall into the trap of trying to tell myself I want to get that exact sound in my head, and I'm going to try as hard as I can to get it. And I've fallen into that trap so many times, and I've told myself so many times, stop falling into that trap, just accept what you get and be happy with it, and just try and make it as good as you can, but don't try and think, I want this one sound exactly and nothing else except this one sound, because you'll never get it. And of course, that's exactly what I did, and that's part of why this track took me way too long to make, is because I spent way too long trying to make this B section sound exactly what I had in my head. Although in fairness, I am actually a little bit relieved, because what I did get is closer than I would have thought I would be able to get to what I had in mind. And I still think, even when it isn't exactly what I had in mind, it is really, really good. And of course, as well as that, you'll notice that this is the extended version of the track, because this C section is cut from the shortened version. I have an extended version of the track called Solstice Eternal Night, because there are so many sounds made for this track that the cut down version actually has multiple sounds that are just not even used in it at all, which I obviously spent the time to make, so I wanted to upload an extended version as well. Oh, as well as that, the reason why I called it Eternal Night instead of just Solstice Extended, I'm not gonna lie, it was mostly just because I thought if I just called it Solstice Extended, you might get the impression that it's just the same track, but I repeat some bits more, since a lot of extended mixes are just the same music, but they repeat themselves more before it ends, and I wanted to make it clear that's not what this was. Anyway, this C section was actually kind of interesting. I know we've gone past it now, but essentially I made this essentially to transition more smoothly into the new melody that you hear when it gets into the second half, because originally I was planning to just end it after the B section. I didn't plan a C section, but I realised that it sounded more good to have a C section that uses the new melody instead of just cutting straight to the new melody when the drop ends, because then it's kind of like, instead of drop ends, second half starts, new melody all at once, it's kind of, okay, drop continues, new melody, nothing else is different. Well, you know, other things are different, but you know what I mean. Nothing else structurally is different. Then the drop ends and the second section starts, but you're already in the new melody, so it's a bit less of a jarring change. I thought that was a much nicer kind of transition. And as well as that, I'm going to briefly turn things up in a moment because we're about to get to my favourite part in the entire track by far. This sound, this second drop, is literally my favourite sound I think I've ever made in my entire life. Ever. Yeah, you can probably tell why I love that so much. That is just such a beautiful combination of kind of the dubstep and the melodic side. It's just, that sounds like that are what I live for. So yeah, I was pretty happy with how that turned out. So anyway, yeah, I don't actually think I have that much more to say. Oh, why are these muted? Oh, I forgot I left these muted last time I saved this project. They aren't muted in the final sound file, it's just I've touched this project since I finished it just to demonstrate some things. I forgot I left those muted. Well, either way, that should be fixed now. Yeah, we're approaching the end here. I guess I may as well keep the commentary going until we get there. But yeah, that's mostly what I wanted to say about this track. I just kind of wanted to show the rest of it. I will admit I could see how some people could think this is a bit too repetitious here, but I'm not gonna lie, I spent a long time polishing this one bass here that's kind of the main focus here, and so it felt like a bit of a waste to only have it take up 16 bars. In hindsight, maybe I didn't need to really repeat it here, but either way, this only happens in the extended version. In the cut down version, it only repeats itself once. And if you're wondering what this is afterwards, this is the shortened version. It's actually in the same project file. I just decided I may as well do that so I don't have two separate project files. So yeah, essentially, as you can imagine, I just copy-pasted everything from here, just like big box, woof, grab everything, put it over, and then decided, okay, cut this, cut this, cut this, until eventually it got to a point where instead of being 6.5 minutes long, it was 4.5 minutes long. Bit more reasonable. Anyway, so that's it for Solstice.
Okay.